Good afternoon. It is the big show. We are coming to you live as a Post-Gazette. Obviously, I'm Paul Zeise. We do it every day, right around 5 o'clock. Today, I will be brutally honest with you. I was holding out hope for the last few minutes that something would happen with the Steelers quarterback position because, the big news of the day is that Justin Fields is gone to the Jets. And so, there's this. They were talking with Aaron Rodgers. They're still talking to Russell Wilson. There's actually some discussion that maybe they're even talking to Daniel Jones. Um, I didn't really, I really didn't know or think that we would be sitting here right now talking about this. Honestly, when I signed off on a Thursday or Friday or whatever it was, I thought for sure Justin Fields was going to be the quarterback by this point in the day on Monday. So I was wrong. And when I'm wrong, I say it. That's the big thing. I'll say it. Now, the thing about Justin Fields, let's start there. Okay. The thing about Justin Fields is that the Steelers lost him. And I'm sure the spin will be, well, they didn't really, they didn't really think he was worth this or that. The reality is they wanted him back. But they wanted to do that thing the Steelers do where they were going to squeeze him for everything they could squeeze him for because they really, really, really believed, A, they're the Steelers, and B, more importantly, that, he didn't really have many good options. I tell you when I started to think a little bit that maybe it wasn't a done deal of him staying was on Friday when reports started to surface that the Jets were going to come after him really hard. And I think that's going to be interesting that to see what happens with him in New York. The Jets offensive coordinator was the passing game coordinator with the Lions last year. So obviously they're going to have a really good, really extensive passing game and an up-to-date sort of modernized offense. So it'll be interesting. But to me, the Steelers kind of screwed up here. I think that now when you look at it, they should have had this done. And we talked about this for the last 2 weeks. This should have been done over the last 2 weeks. But they flirted and looked around everywhere else. And, that part of that tells you that they probably weren't 100% sold on Justin Fields. I don't think that it came down to money because I don't think that $20 million is excessive for your starting quarterback. I think it just basically the Steelers decided, that they were going to do it on their terms. And when it wasn't their terms, they dragged their feet. And basically Justin Fields said, you know what? I'm tired of waiting for you guys. I know there are other teams out there that want us. There are other teams out there that want us to do this and want us to, come there and play for them. The Jets made it very clear from day one. Very, very clear from day one that, they were in the market for a starting quarterback. As soon as Aaron Glenn got hired, it was pretty clear they were moving on from Aaron Rodgers and, they were going to go find a quarterback. And I think part of it is they made it very clear to Justin Fields that they wanted him. And it's nice to be wanted. And one way, they showed him that they wanted him. They gave him $20 million a year, which I don't know that the Steelers would ever get that. And I think that's going to be sort of the postscript on all this stuff is the Steelers' arrogance in some ways cost them the opportunity to sign Justin Fields, who they brought to Pittsburgh for a reason last year, didn't they? I mean, allegedly, this was the guy that Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin wanted. Well, if that's the case, they didn't do a very good job of showing it. Now, part of it might be that they weren't 110% sold on the idea that Justin Fields was the guy. But I don't believe that to be the case either because it seemed to me that he was the guy that they wanted. And now it's going to be a really interesting thing to see where they go next. Now, people are talking about Aaron Rodgers or Daniel Jones or Russell Wilson. Now, it's funny because if you think about the Russell Wilson thing, it's been leaked, or whatever you want to say, several times, that the offensive coordinator and maybe even the head coach weren't really all that much in love with Russell Wilson. In fact, it's been leaked by Steelers sources out there that Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith didn't have a good relationship, that Russell Wilson started changing plays and calling different plays, and Arthur Smith didn't like it, and it became a point of contention, and that was sort of why they were at the point of no return. Well, guess what? Listen, those leaks, quote unquote, they were out there for a reason. The Steelers don't just let information get leaked out of there unless it's something that they want out there. And that was leaked out there, I think, because they wanted to make it very clear that they were going to move on from Russell Wilson. And so that's what they did. And I think the other thing they did was try to ensure that if they leaked these things out, that they didn't want them back the way that they thought they wanted them back, that maybe they could get them for a better price. But here's the problem. All that stuff's been out there. If they sign Russell Wilson now, what is the spin going to be? How are we going to spin this whole idea that somehow now they're all going to get along and sing Kumbaya and be in love with each other because, well, he's back? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, again, it's easy to sign him, but all of us who have been around observing this and watching this thing, I mean, it's kind of funny to me, isn't it? Now, what do you do if you have to get Russell Wilson? What do you do? How do you bring him back and basically say, oh boy, okay, now we're bringing this guy back. And we're bringing him back because we have to, because our other options are gone. That's what you have to do, honestly. Now you have to figure out, if you're going to bring him back, how do you make it work when you basically had, it thrown out there that the Steelers wanted to move on from him because he didn't get along with the offensive coordinator? How do you make that work? That's going to be the interesting thing. The second thing is going to be Aaron Rodgers. I mean, give me a break, but you got Aaron Rodgers. To me, when you look at Aaron Rodgers, the reality is he's a guy that has burned some bridges. He's a guy that's a little bit controversial. He's a guy that might not even be as good as he used to be, although I think if you looked how he played at the last 5 games of the year, I think probably, he still has some good football to be played. Is he going to really fit in the Steelers locker room? You got DK Metcalf, you got Aaron Rodgers, you've got George Pickens. Boy, I don't know. Daniel Jones, to me, he's a safe choice. I don't think he's great. I'm not even sure if he's good, but he's serviceable. And given the way the Steelers want to play offense, if they do some things with their offensive line, they got a shot, right, to protect him, and maybe he becomes a reasonably good player. But really, that's what we're looking at. And to me, I would tell you, it's going to be important. I really think this. It's going to be important to make sure that they go out and get a good backup. Because every one of these situations, to me, has a chance to blow up. Every one of them. And so if that's the case, and every one of them has a chance to blow up, I'll be honest with you, you got to make sure that you have a plan B. I'll tell you what wouldn't be the worst idea. If is Mason Rudolph available, he wouldn't be the worst idea when it comes to this, signing somebody to be the backup. He wouldn't be the worst idea. I don't know if he, I don't know if he'd come back, but to me, you have to make sure that you go out and you sign the people that you that you really, really are going to give you a stable quarterback situation. I still can't believe that we're going to go to Aaron Rodgers. I just can't believe it. I can't believe that that's what we're going to do, because I just don't know that he fits what they're looking for. By the same token, their back is against the wall. Their back's against the wall. And I think that's a problem. They have to be really kind of figuring it out. What are we doing here? Again, you've kind of blown out the idea that you can go back to Russell Wilson, but you might have to. And if Aaron Rodgers goes off the board, or Russell Wilson goes off the board, then you have no choice. Then all of a sudden you don't even have any leverage, for real. So to me, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of where I'm at, and I'm saying I just don't know if the Steelers really have played this quarterback position the right way. Even if they end up with Aaron Rodgers, or even if they end up with, Daniel Jones or whatever, maybe they have something else up their sleeve. I would think that bringing a guy like DK Metcalf to the table would make it a more attractive place for quarterbacks. But again, you're still playing in the offense that's run by Arthur Smith. And here's the other thing that's really troubling. Najee Harris, apparently, if you believe Josina Anderson, and I think she's been a pretty good source for some of the players in the league like Najee Harris, if you believe her, he's gone. Like, he's saying goodbye to everybody, and he's basically saying, it's important for him to say goodbye, and if that's the case, you lose him. Boy, now you've got Jaylen Warren, and I don't know, that he's good enough to be an everyday back. And then where do you go? I've seen a number of the running backs come off the board over the last 24 hours. Where do you go after that? So it's going to be interesting to me to see what happens. It really is. I think what's really going to be interesting is just trying to make sure that when the dust settles, they have everything in place to really legitimately be a good team. I just don't know. If that's possible. And that's not saying that just because Justin Fields is gone, everything is bad. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying it's just going to be very, very interesting if they aren't able to bring in Aaron Rodgers. What exactly are they going to do at quarterback? That's a big thing. It's just going to be a very interesting 24 hours, I think. My gut is if it didn't happen with Aaron Rodgers, by tonight or tomorrow, I just don't think it's going to happen. At that point, then we're talking about what? Basically Russell Wilson. So the Steelers, I think, and I hate to say it like this, but I think they screwed the pooch here. I really do. I don't think Justin Fields is a great player, but I do think that their arrogance cost them the right to sign him. And I just don't know that there's a better option out there. You can say whatever you want to say about Russell Wilson 5 years ago, but it ain't 5 years ago. It ain't 5 years ago. And you know what? We just watched him lose 6 games in a row. And we just saw all of his deficiencies on full display. To me, I don't know if he's a better option. Aaron Rodgers theoretically could be a better option, but he's got a bad wheel still, and he's 90 years old. I don't know. And is Daniel Jones really that much of an upgrade over Justin Fields? Again, I'm looking at what they are trying to do here, and I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't know if they did it the right way. I think they kind of blew it, to be honest. We'll see how it plays out. Listen, one of the things you have to do, one of the things you absolutely have to do, more than anything else, is not overreact until the off season is over. I've said this many times. People wanted me to grade the off season. They want me to panic about this. They want me to. I'm telling you this much right now. Do not judge the Steelers or any team until the off season is over. You know, we get to after the draft. We get to after June 1st. Then we have a pretty good idea of what the roster is actually going to look like. And you basically then can start to say, okay, they had a good offseason or they had a bad offseason. Clearly bringing DK Metcalf in has been a great development. It's something the Steelers needed more than anything else. I mean, we've talked about it for a year and a half, 2 years. They need to have that guy to go along with George Pickens. It's interesting. There is a school of thought that they might be able to trade George Pickens now for picks. I don't know if they would do that. They could. One of the things you have to remember is they signed DK Metcalf to 5-year, $150 million. That's $30 million a year. Are they going to pay $60 million or, because next year George Pickens has to get paid? Are they going to pay $60 million to two receivers? I can't see that happening. So while it's, easy to sit here and say, well, now they got these two receivers, be careful. Again, let's wait till mid-June to see if they have them both. Because my gut tells me they're probably not going to be interested in signing Pickens to a $25-30 million deal when they just signed DK Metcalf to that. They're not going to pay $60 million to two receivers. They're just not. One guy got the money. The other guy is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and I'm assuming they're not going to let him walk, and not get something for him. So if they can get a really high draft pick for him, they'll probably do that and then, try and figure out in the draft if they can find the next George Pickens. I think that's really what they're going to do, honestly. I think that's why you bring in a guy like Metcalf, is it gives you some luxury, it gives you some flexibility. But remember this when I say this, okay? Remember this. It's so hard to put together a roster where everybody's making lots of money. In fact, it's impossible. It's the way it's built. So at the end of the day, they've chose to spend their money on DK Metcalf. It's similar to, was it Mike Wallace and Antonio Brown back in the day? I think it was Mike Wallace and Antonio Brown, right? Do you remember that? They offered Mike Wallace the money. He wanted more. They said, okay. They offered Antonio Brown the money. He said, I'll take it. And Mike Wallace went to Miami or wherever he went. That's what happens. And this is similar. They're not going to pay. They are not going to pay two receivers $30 million each. And George Pickens, if you're George Pickens, you're like, okay, well, wait a minute. The going rate for the top receivers are $27 to $35 million. What is it? $27 to like $32 million. That's the going rate for top receivers. I'm young. I'm entering my prime. $27 million is probably my floor. And guess what? I want more than that. So I think what happens with Metcalf is you bring him in and you probably now make George Pickens a little bit expendable. It'd be nice if Pickens had another 2 years on his deal, because then you could at least have these two guys for 1 year and then trade them next year. I'm just saying it's going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting to see what happens. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be just an offense that is going to be very much in transition a little bit. Again, if they lose Najee Harris, now you got to really, 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 scramble to try and rebuild your backfield. And again, let me make this clear, because I see some of the comments already. And of course, we live in a world where everything has to be black and white. And everything is either the greatest or the worst. So let me make this clear for some of the learning challenged or the comprehension challenge people that don't seem to understand what I'm saying. I've never said Justin Fields is the greatest player on the planet. I don't think he's the greatest player on the planet. I don't even think he's an elite quarterback, but he's a young quarterback who's got upside and a lot of potential. And I'm looking at the other options that you have. And I would tell you, I don't know that any of those options are that much better than Justin Fields. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here crying a river because they lost Justin Fields. I think the Steelers basically thought that they could get him on the cheap, and they weren't able to do it. The Steelers thought, arrogantly thought, like they always do, that everybody wants to sign up to play for them because they're the big bad Steelers. They're not anymore. They're not the organization they once was. They're not the organization where everyone wants to go there and play for them. And despite all of those idiotic player surveys, guess what? Mike Tomlin, they're not all signing up to play for Mike Tomlin either. My thing is, I'm looking at reality. I look at Justin Fields, and I think the Steelers would have won 9 or 10 games again and been in the playoffs and lost in the first round if he started 17, regardless if Russell Wilson played. They still would have been the same team. They still would have been a 9 or 10-win team, whatever the hell they were. I just don't think Russell Wilson at this stage in his career is that much better than Justin Fields. Aaron Rodgers, guess what? He could take the field on, opening day, step back to pass, and blow out his Achilles again. Because he's older than Methuselah. Daniel Jones, are you kidding me? All I'm saying is Justin Fields, to me, is just as good. And actually, unlike those other three guys I just named, he actually has some upside. He actually has potential. And he's still young enough, he might achieve that. Now, maybe there's a discussion to be had that he wouldn't have achieved it here because the Steelers' offensive coaching staff isn't very good. But the offensive coordinator is stuck in a time and place, back in the 70s. Maybe there's some discussion to be had that he wouldn't have been good here because they had no idea how to use him. That might be a fair discussion. But the bottom line is this nonsense, about the fact that somehow there's these great upgrades that are out there. There isn't. And if you're going to be stuck with a guy, the devil, you might as well go with the guy who has some upside. At the end of the day, you might as well do that. And I know, again, we live in this world where everything is black and white. And, if you don't agree with me, then you must be saying something completely the opposite. No, I'm not. I've never once said that Justin Fields is an elite quarterback, a great quarterback, or anything other than he is, which is a young guy that has potential. And quite frankly, the Steelers are kidding themselves if they think that they're basically a geriatric Aaron Rodgers away from going and competing for a Super Bowl next year. At least if you sign up Justin Fields for a couple of seasons, you have a chance maybe for 2 years to see, can he take the next steps? Russell Wilson is what he is. Aaron Rodgers is what he is. Daniel Jones is what he is. Period. So, are those three guys maybe a little better than Justin Fields right now? Maybe. But only one of those four has the upside and the potential to perhaps become a star. That's what I think people are missing. And I'm not saying he's going to be a star. He could be a bust. He might go to New York and stink and be benched by the fifth game. Maybe. But guess what? He also might go there. They seem to have a really good offensive coordinator. A guy who came from Detroit who, was the pass game coordinator at Detroit. Clearly, worked under the Bears. What's his name? Ben Johnson or whatever his name is. Clearly understands offensive football. To me, He goes there, he could thrive. Either way, like I said, this thing where we're going to try and now destroy Justin Fields as if he was the worst player that's ever played for the Steelers is stupid. And this other thing that we're doing, acting like there's all of these great options out there, that's stupid too. I'm sorry. That's stupid too. Now, maybe the Steelers make a deal that we don't know about. Maybe there's somebody that's on the block that we don't know about. Maybe, okay, maybe. But from where I'm sitting right now, it seems to me like there is no real options here. Honestly. And so they're going to end up with a guy that you have to hope still has one more year. All right, here we go. I just wanted to go see what the latest is. And Jerry Dulac says they're still talking. The Steelers and Rodgers are still talking as of 15 minutes ago. So that's what it's going to be. Wait a second. Here we go. This can't be right. Wait, this is right. Stop the presses. We're missing the story here. Kenny Pickett was just traded from the Eagles to the Browns in exchange for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Unreal. There you go. I guess he's not going to be coming back to Pittsburgh. Oh boy. That's very, very interesting. I don't know what the long game is here, other than Tanner McKee. If you remember Tanner McKee from where was he from? Stanford, I think is where he's from. He actually impressed the Eagles a lot, and I think that's one of those situations where he impressed the Eagles so much that they kind of felt like Kenny Pickett was expendable. But there you have that. Quarterback news that doesn't involve the Steelers. Like I said, Jerry Dulac about 15 minutes ago said the Steelers are still talking to Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see what happens and see what goes on at that point. But anyway, couple of other notes. The Steelers, Dante Jackson, the cornerback, is gone. And as is Larry Ogunjobi, as is in the big name, Dan Moore Jr., which we kind of knew he was going to be gone. But this is incredible to me. The Titans signed him to 4 years. Are you ready for this? 4 years. $82 million. With it was like 30 or I'm trying to find it right now, $30 or $35 million or something like that, guaranteed. $82 million. Can you believe that? Oh my goodness. That's incredible to me. So, again, we talk about mama, let your kids grow up to be quarterbacks, left-handed pitchers, and left tackles. $82 million is a lot of money for Daniel Moore. Anyway, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. We are going to stay on top of this. We're gonna stay on top of this quarterback situation for you all night long. I would assume the Steelers will have some direction or something in place by later today. And so when it happens, we're going to have a live video like this because we want to make sure that we're on top of it for all of you. And, we'll talk about it, discuss it. Again, I look at Aaron Rodgers, and as a media guy, I think it would be tremendous, to be honest. I think it'd be a lot of fun as a media guy because Aaron Rodgers is polarizing, but I just don't know. I just don't know if it's going to work out. Again, my thoughts were the Steelers should probably just go with Justin Fields and see what happens. But, you don't, the flip side of that is you don't bring in a guy like DK Metcalf, and you don't, to play with a quarterback that isn't great at throwing the forward pass. And I think that's probably a larger issue. But again, it's going to be funny. There's really only three options left. There's only 3 options left now for the Steelers. Daniel Jones is 1, Aaron Rodgers is 2, and Russell Wilson is 3. And Wilson is talking to the Giants as well as everybody else. So, to me, it's going to be a very, very interesting 24 hours in Pittsburgh. One thing that's true, too, is they've cleared a little cap space out, so maybe they are going to make a run at Rodgers. I can't imagine he's going to come cheap. But if they get Aaron Rodgers, my prediction would be Russell Wilson goes to the Giants, and we go from there. So stay tuned. We are going to keep you informed as much as we possibly can keep you informed as the night goes on. Again, Larry Ogunjobi gone. Dante Jackson gone. It seems like Najee Harris is going. And Dan Moore Jr. gone. So there a little bit of shuffling of the roster. There was a report that they had signed Darius Slay, a cornerback, 34-year-old cornerback. I think his last stop might have been New England. But then there was another report from Schefter or somebody that says that the deal isn't done yet. Might not happen. So we will keep you informed and keep you posted on all of that kind of stuff as we go forward. Until then, enjoy your evening and stay tuned because we're going to have much, much more later tonight.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.